All right, if we're all set, we'll call the regular August Groton Traffic Authority meeting to order. For the sake of everybody in the room, if we could just go around the room and introduce ourselves.
Director of Public Works of the town. Cindy Street.
Teresa Adams.
26, I'm sorry, where?
Waterhouse.
Gotcha.
Sergeant Joel Lenda, Traffic Unit Supervisor.
Katie Wislowski, Executive Assistant to the Chief.
John Burt, Town Manager.
And LJ Pizarro, Police Chief. I think that would also constitute our roll call. The official members of the Traffic Authority, the Town Manager, and myself. Approval of the minutes. I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the special meeting that was held on Thursday, June 9th.
A second.
I'm in favor.
Me too.
In favor. Next is public communications, 22-521, which is regarding Pearl Street traffic control and speeding. I have a file here that you provided that includes some analysis that was done by our traffic unit. Sergeant Linda, I think you have that too, don't you? Do you have that?
Yes.
I believe it may have been Officer Lucero who did that. Do you want to comment on it at all, or?
There was two separate ones that were done. One was off season. And they both showed a low percentage of speed violators.
Okay, low enforcement index, but I do believe we have a resident that's interested in discussing this. Is that Mr.
That's it.
Guest
Lee?
online?
Yeah, last name's pronounced. Guess.
Are you able to hear us, sir?
I can. Can you hear me?
Sure,
Yes.
sure. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think the speeding issue is a misnomer. It's really the speed at which people are traveling down the street that's the problem. And I think the speed study does a good job of characterizing that most people are somewhere between 25 and 35 miles per hour, northbound and southbound. I also provided a PDF file for this meeting. I don't know if you guys have copies of that.
We do.
Okay, so you can see
Yeah.
you can see that first picture, right?
Just, we did not have a chance to review this.
We
prior to
just
the meeting.
received it a few minutes ago.
Great.
I
Okay,
don't know if you wanna
happy to walk.
talk us through
Happy,
it.
you bet. So the first picture shows, just down from Eldridge, where a car is parked on the northbound side. And then there's the end of a permitted parking area on the southbound side. And the front of that car is not more than 10 feet from the end of that parking area. There is a no parking sign on the northbound side, but it doesn't really seem that people understand it applies to that area. And so there've been situations where you literally have to go diagonally between two cars, one on north and one on south, in order to get into the single lane traffic headed southbound. If it was a fire truck, there's no way it's going to get through. And I've actually encountered cars, basically both of us stuck coming together head on because that corner's blind. Now, fortunately, when it gets down to one lane, most people are traveling a little slower than the 25 mile per hour speed limit. But they should be traveling a lot slower when you come together head to head on a blind corner like that. And the second picture just shows, typical Pearl Street traffic, or typical Pearl Street single lane road, given the parking on both sides of the street. Right. It's just, it really needs to be a much lower speed limit. It's not safe to drive 25 miles per hour in that situation.
We're just looking at your write-up as well as the map.
Yeah, I mean, I provided copies of emails that I sent in response to the speed study. The statistics are demonstrating that there's no enforcement problem with respect to a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, but that's not the problem. Right. The problem is that people driving at 30 miles per hour is just way too fast. And I've been told that we need to petition the state in order to get, a 20-mile-per-hour or lower speed limit put in place on the street. But really, we should do that.
That is accurate. We are, as a local traffic authority, we do have to, that's one of those areas where while we have jurisdiction over town roads, we are required to get approval from the state. 25 miles per hour is the minimum speed limit in the state. Anything below that requires their approval. And I see where you've referenced a couple areas here in this, in Noank, West Mystic, Ashby, Fort Rachel have speed limits at or below 20 miles an hour. Those
Right.
Those have been, Jeannie, we don't have any idea how long those have been like that. I can tell you they haven't been changed in the last 7 years while I've been in this position. And I think they probably go back decades would be my guess. Craig, you don't happen to know, do you?
No, that's been that way for a long time.
One item you do have, and I just kind of want to explain our position, what it's been in the past, and we can kind of take off some of the things you have on here. We are not, as a group, in favor of any speed humps in the town. Those that exist right now were kind of grandfathered in and existed many years ago. It's not really a method that is approved any longer to control speed. In fact, studies show that where there's a speed hump, people actually accelerate in between them to higher speeds. It also does cause some other concerns for us, particularly, public works when it comes to snow clearing and maintaining. We haven't approved any of those in the town during my tenure, and I know that predates me. When Mark Offinger was a town manager, he had a similar position for probably a previous decade. So they haven't been done a lot. That's not to say we're not willing to do anything. I just wanted to explain to you our position on some of those issues right off the bat.
Right.
So the speed humps are, the likelihood of that happening is low, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean we can't address some of these things through other measures. Some of the data that we would have to provide to the state is just what we gave you in this, which I think you're familiar with, is that speed study.
Yep.
That's something we'd have to do to the state of Connecticut. The three-way intersection, could you explain that to me, how you think that might help remedy this issue?
Well, the distance from Cliff Street to Eldridge is what, 250 yards maybe, right? And right now, just people are continuing to accelerate as they go from Cliff, up Pearl past Eldridge, or vice versa. And having stops in between could slow them down, at least, right? They're not driving to get to third gear or fourth gear, as they're coming down the street. It'd be a nuisance for them, but, better that than having them hit 45 like some of them did in the speed study.
I'll try to explain this. Copeland was the expert on this stuff, but one of our former members, or one of our assistants here on the traffic authority, was able to explain this, but it's
The town engineer.
I'm sorry. Yep. The manual, MUTCD, which is the manual for uniform traffic control devices, does discourage governmental entities from using stop signs to do speed control. We would have to look at that to see if it would warrant. And I'd probably look to you to do that, Joel. But I'm talking a lot. I don't know if the town manager has any thoughts on this stuff.
No, I agree. Yeah, we'd have to study it.
And then you're looking for two three-way stop signs.
But again, I'm looking for slower speeds.
I'm all for that.
And to me, those seem like, if you have to go through a bunch of red tape with the state to get something approved, then make it a de facto speed limit, because you can't get going that fast between those stop signs.
Jeannie, I know I kind of asked you last minute, but were you able to do any research on what we've had for traffic accidents?
Yeah, since January 1st, there have been 2
Of
accidents.
this year?
Yep, in Pearl Street. Going back to January 13th of 20, again, I didn't have time to separate the Pearl Street and Noank from the Pearl Street and Mystic.
Sure.
So total since 2020 was 11 Pearl, but I know some of them are in Noank. They're not
The
all
two
the
for this
Mystic.
year are definitely Mystic though.
They were
Okay.
definitely, there's 3, but 1 was Noank,
Okay.
and 2 were in, but I wasn't able to print them out or.
Does that include the party that went straight through the stop sign at the end of Pearl into the river?
Did that, if that had,
When
it
was that?
would, if that was since January of this year. But it was probably included in the total of 11 since January
okay.
13th of 20.
That's all data. Were we to do take any action, that's all data that we would need to support any petition that we made if we were looking.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if you guys saw it, but if I flip this around, you can. There's a corner of Eldridge. Can you see that?
Yes.
So, yeah, I was sitting up here one day and, saw a cyclist just about get hit by a pickup truck. If she hadn't fishtailed, slid the bike, it would have been right in his grill, because he was going around a car parked on this side, accelerating into the, basically on the northbound side, but headed south. And I don't know if she had stopped or what, but she basically had to lay down the bike in order to not get hit. So, and I'm not talking about a motorcycle, I'm talking about a cyclist. So, there are near misses for sure that happen here as well.
Do you have any thoughts on it?
On the stop signs,
Okay.
well, I mean, like the chief said, using stop signs for speed control is definitely not something that's looked at favorably, because people just start ignoring them, like they probably do now anyway, but
Which is another one of the topics that we're going to talk about.
yeah, they just become just nuisance almost, and just people just go right through them anyway. It gives everybody a false sense of security if they're gonna stop. If it's a sightline issue, I mean, we can take a look at that. That would, put some stop signs out there. Sightline issue.
Sure, I don't know if you heard what he said. Is there a sightline issue there too, where people can't see oncoming traffic, or is
Yeah,
that just a product of parking?
Certainly as you're approaching Clift and you're headed southbound, that's tough. It's single lane. And sometimes there are 5 cars parked between Clift and the end of the legal parking on Pearl. It's just packed.
Greg Hanover is here. He's our public works director. He's also an engineer. So, we'll have him take a look at that, at the sightline issues.
Yeah, they're partly illustrated in the photo that I sent.
Parking
Yeah.
north of Eldridge.
Yeah.
See if this is, because I know he took some of it out,
Right.
because it was real narrow there.
Yeah, we'll also take a look at the parking along there. And then
Yeah.
I would definitely make a motion. Yeah, we're ready for it. I'm not sure there's any other options.
Do you have any thoughts on it, Joel? I mean, you went down there.
I do agree that there, even though it does say low tolerance, that there is plenty of people that are going through there at a decent speed. That's probably unreasonable for that area. It's also a little bit of a challenging area to conduct enforcement. And the numbers are high on one end, but in our way we look at it, it's a low number. So it's hard to target a low number of people throughout the whole day, given manpower and all that stuff.
Yep.
So
How
I'll have
about
to look at
what
different
are
ways to try to,
On the pole side.
right, I could look at that. We also have a dog. We have to try to look into, find the spot to mount that.
Talking about the traffic sign.
Yeah, traffic sign, like traffic dolly sign to put up temporary. But I can definitely look into trying to conduct enforcement in that area.
Sir, any particular time of day when you're seeing the most problems?
Well, people do use it as a commuter pass through. And so, between 7 and 8:30 in the morning, maybe 6:45 to 8:30 in the morning. And then again, evening time up to 5. And you got, middle of the day landscape trucks on on days we're they're in town, towing trailers. So I think you probably get a flavor of it, that it's pretty, just imagine a trailer in the single lane Pearl Street. I have a boat and I won't tow it down Pearl Street unless it's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Not a bad thing about clearing up sightlines, taking out parking is that you feel more free to go faster.
Yeah.
The visual
Yeah,
barriers
right.
often slow people down.
So,
I mean, we do get good response to the signs, but it trains the locals, to kind of think about it, but it doesn't do much for the visitors
right.
once
So
it's gone.
what is what kind of a process is it to go to this state and, pursue a lower speed limit?
We usually, we'll contact the local office, which is in Norwich, and it may end up going up to their headquarters in Newington and ask them to take a look at it. And what they'll do is they'll send folks out and take a look at it. We'll provide them with this data. We'll provide them with the speed analysis that we've done, as well as any of the, accident data, documentation like that. We don't do it often.
What's the typical timeline for getting a response from them?
It's not quick, and it's getting worse because of a lot of state retirements. So the timeline is probably, just to manage expectations,
I'd say a couple months.
springtime maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I've been here for 5 years. And springtime would be fantastic. My wife would be very relieved. I'll stop complaining about it.
Well, we can't offer you any assurances of what their assessment will be. I don't know if you have any other thoughts or if you wanted to move something.
I'd like to make a motion to request the state lower the speed limit on Pearl Street from 25 down to 20, as well as authorize the Public Works Manager to review sightline issues, including parking on Pearl Street, and to make any necessary changes. Maybe you'll consult with us, I'm sure, but I don't want to wait 2 more months to be able to do something. And vote. So did you hear that? So we'll put a request into the state, and then our Public Works Director will look at the parking and sightline issues and take action as needed.
In the interim, I'll ask Sergeant Linda if we have an opportunity to go out there and look at putting some speed signs out.
Yep.
I know that's a high demand item, but if we're able to do that.
Yep, absolutely.
I have a question on the question. Do you have to specify what you want the lower limit to be to the state, or could the state determine it, perhaps lower it with 15 or 10 on behalf of that area? Just a question.
Yeah, I think they could probably, if they found that there was a problem that warranted some exceptional, bring it down from maybe 25 to 5, being extreme here. I think they would find that out through their assessment and they'd let us know that. Yeah, we don't necessarily have to give them a limit.
We're not saying that.
Yeah. We'll just say, we'll take a look at the speed limit. We've got a request to reduce it. And they'll come back and they may say, yeah, you know what, we're gonna keep it the same. We'll move it to 25 or 20 or.
So my motion was at least down to 20.
All right.
Or lower.
So could I request that,
Only one request per day. Sorry.
I just, that it's somewhat seasonal, and we're certainly in the height of the season when we got tourists parking all over the place. And, if we documented during the art fair, it would have been ridiculous, but that's kind of the extreme of it. But, if the state is going to end up looking at it in November, it's not going to be quite as intense a problem as it is right now. So,
Yeah, we could put that in the request, that obviously this is a heightened concern during the spring, summer, and fall. When we draft something to them, we'll
Okay.
put that out.
And I'm sure all the local people that work
Right.
at DOT know Mystic.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
and really, if I should ask, neighbors on Gravel Street, to kind of second this. I'm sure they would like it on their street as well. And then if you look at Cliff, where Cliff connects the two streets, that's usually parked up. So that it's, you know, single lane. Eldridge is pretty tame, but, you know,
We'll send a letter and I'll follow it up with a phone call to DOT and just, even if they're coming down to look, maybe they can look at it more holistically and look at some of the other roads around there.
that
That was
makes,
part of my question too.
Okay, yeah,
I heard it.
we could ask them just, you know.
Yeah, if they
several
can take
Mystic
it,
Streets.
yeah.
Okay.
All
But
right.
centering on those ones. Okay,
Fair
thank you.
enough. You're welcome.
have a good day.
There is no business on the agenda unless anyone else has any
I don't have anything.
new business. And I'm sorry,
We might
Which-
be able to bring something up as old business. This lady is here for, do you remember back in August of 19, Ledgeland Drive, we approved some crosswalk. Well, we approved a means of slowing cars down to allow neighbors to cross over to the tot lot, the playground
I
up there.
remember it vaguely. I don't
And
remember
we
all the
left it
details.
with
I remember
Public
that,
Works,
but yeah.
you know, figure out a way to do it.
Hmm.
They did come up with a plan, and I talked to Stacy this morning. I don't know if she mentioned it to you, Greg, as far as a plan was proposed. It wasn't approved yet. But this lady is here to bring that issue back up. I do know one thing Colin had told me in the past was some concrete work would need to be performed to create the ramps that lead to the crosswalks. As well as I know she was hoping for stop signs, but again, they don't meet the town road and drainage standards. So I don't think stop signs are an option, but the crosswalk, that's the route we were gonna take. So that's why she's here.
Okay.
do we have a file number on that?
I do have the file for that. I can grab that.
No, if we're gonna take
Because
action.
it shows the proposal.
I might actually.
Well, if we take any action on it, we have to reference something.
Yeah, I think I might have to.
So how much you did at the tip versus not before me?
It's old
Oh, He
business.
looked at me, a little inside play.
We've been working on this between myself and multiple.
They did, they must have had some Vulcan mind meld, you know.
Stacy did give me that plan this morning, painted crosswalks and some ramps.
Okay.
I had,
Essentially, it's
Yeah, that's the
a
plan.
similar issue as what that last gentleman was speaking about. It's, and I have lots of questions now that I've been here, particularly like how do we get a speed study done in that neighborhood? Because one of my main concerns is if we are putting in crosswalks, but there's no stop sign, the grade and the curve of Ledgeland in the two areas that we're talking about where there are intersections to allow kids and families to get to the park are on a curve and on a hill. And so my concern is people won't see that there's a crosswalk there. Some will think it's safe to cross because there's a crosswalk there and it's almost more dangerous.
So you got crosswalk signs, don't you, at least?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
says with arrows saying it's right here.
far
Literally,
as the
there's arrows pointing to it.
The speed study, we do that in-house, you know, Sergeant Lenda's group does that, he'll assign an officer to put out a speed study, so we can do that. Joel.
Yeah.
And I actually do think our neighborhood is. Beginning.
So you want to increase the speed
No,
limit?
no, I think it's fantastic. I don't know how that happened, but.
It's probably the grades.
Yes,
Because we
and-
had another road in town, the residents wanted 15. It's a significant grade. The state agreed to 20.
I actually feel if people did 20 is fine.
Wait, but,
There's plenty
well,
of
did we
time.
authorize it in the motion
did.
before?
But people go forward.
But did we authorize to take action as needed in that?
You did.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
we
No,
usually
so
do
we
that.
don't, yeah. doing-
No, because you left it up to them to find a way to do it.
And I think
it looks like.
COVID ended all of that.
She emailed me, so.
Is it,
I'll reach out.
is it something you think is
Okay,
doable?
wonderful.
Yeah, it's painting crosswalks and signs and, but.
What about the ramp? Yeah.
Ramps, we have a concrete contractor on doing some of the work, so we can just add that.
There is actually, I live on Waterhouse connects with Ledgeland in that area. There are already ramps.
On
there.
all three.
I don't think the other intersection we're talking about is Ledgeland and Bowles, and I'm not sure that, I don't
We'll
believe.
go out and look and see if we can add any, then we can paint crosswalks and put signs up. Crosswalk.
Okay.
Pedestrians, whatever.
So which issue were you here for? I think we're all set with that, right? We've kind of done that. Yeah. So he's gonna do a speed study and public works.
Get back to me.
Oh, is there something else? Or I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I just, obviously, there's more site work that be done, I guess, for a while.
We've already.
We already
granted them.
authorized him to do it.
They just need to.
Do it.
Exactly.
So Tim Mead again, I'm at 8 Elm Street. Our driveway though is on Library Street.
Okay, so this is
B2,
22-519.
yes.
And it's almost impossible to get in and out of the driveway when there are cars parked across the street, particularly weekend days and the work, high days. And so I just wondered if there is possibility of getting. I've been, it's a people who park on that side of the work, some sign that might say no parking during X, Y, and Z amount of time. It's obviously it's a narrow street to begin with cars parked there, except it's even narrower, so getting in and out is.
The photos.
Right
Ken?
across
This is,
from
um,
the,
that's
Mystic
Elm.
and No Ink
This
Library.
is Elm.
Sergeant
Linda took some photos.
Oh, okay.
It was busy. I was able to grab one photo while I was down there during the art festival. I agree, it is very tight. It would be a difficult maneuver to back out of the driveway. There are several driveways that have the same issue on that, so you probably have more requests coming in for the same thing.
Could I make a motion to have public works? You guys able to go down to look at and go out in the parking lot summer? The line stripes.
Yeah, I've gotten complaints down by the Baptist Church about parking there too, just narrows the road down to like one lane traffic. It's the same situation we have Pearl Street.
I'm sure you're keenly aware, and one of the struggles that we have, particularly this time of the year, is parking in Mystic. There's a study going on. I totally get where you're coming from. We have the other folks that go, well, we need more parking in Mystic, and then we end up taking action that sometimes eliminates parking spaces. But you got to be able to get out of your driveway.
Well, there's ample parking at the church lot if people would be willing to make a donation to the church to park there.
Sure.
Most people forego that opportunity to give to charity to park their car lot. I might add that intersection, four-way stop, people blow through that in both directions.
Which
along,
intersection are you talking about?
Elm and Library
Yeah,
Street.
okay.
And then further up, even though there's adequate sign posting no right turn on Allen Street, somebody could make a quota of tickets in a day if they stick it out. But that's not my complaint. I'm really not making a complaint, just a request.
No. Obviously, we have that all over Mystic, but that block doesn't seem to have too many houses. I'd like to at least do a motion to authorize Public Works to make that change if they deem it necessary. Yeah. Favor. You'll update us after we figure what's up can be relayed. Okay.
Can you also, Joel, maybe have CSOs or patrol folks just keep an eye, just because it's not marked, no parking for those areas, if they're obstructing any driveways and things like that, they obviously take enforcement. If need be, we can remove vehicles. We have community service officers, basically, they're not police officers, but they'll go out and write tickets, things like that.
They
So
should be pretty good at not obstructing the driveways per se. It's not that I've seen, but it's particularly if you get a van or a truck across the street, you gotta be bikini
Tough,
to
yeah.
get in and out. So
So it's a parking on the north side of Library Street.
it's on the library side
Library
side
Yep.
of Library Street. Yeah, there's no parking lot up there.
That's the south side.
kind of back up one, C1,
Okay.
51. 22-518, request to remove stop signs on Landtown Road and its intersection with Largemouth Terrace. And I think you went out and took a look at that, right, Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
And I read in the packet earlier that you concurred with that.
I didn't see the necessary, the need for having this three-way stop at that intersection. The two residents that I spoke down there that don't want it there, they said it's been there for 10, 15 plus years that they know of. And the only real need I can see is it was used for speed enforcement because it's a long straightaway. And obviously that's, we should be using stop signs for speed enforcement, I talked about earlier. They claim that people are just blowing through the stop sign anyways, because it's more of a nuisance to them. And it really only serves a limited area now because of the road closure up ahead with the bridge being out.
Hopefully a couple years from now, though.
So you're not suggesting this one comes out? too?
That one should stay.
Okay. Greg, I mean, I guess, with any thoughts on this?
I know, like the sergeant said, this was probably put in about 10 or 15 years ago. And the previous traffic authority did, against our recommendation, used to use stop signs a lot at these type of intersections for speed control. So I'm assuming that's probably, I don't know, if you ever found out where,
Nothing yet, but I'm still looking.
what the reason was to put it, but I'm assuming that's probably why it was put in.
My hope is that we don't, if we remove it, we don't then start getting the, well, why'd you guys take that sign out? Because now people are speeding on the road type of thing.
I mean, if that's the case, then also enforce it up there. And we can address it that way. If that's,
Maybe one thing we should take them out.
I think so.
All right, I'll make a motion.
A second.
Aye.
Aye.
I think we maybe put up a temporary sign for Largemouth saying stop signs on Landtown have been removed just so
Yeah,
the residents for their souls
Right.
don't pull out when somebody's coming down the
Right.
road thinking they're gonna stop.
Good idea.
One that's going to remain is Largemouth going on to Landtown.
Correct. We'll agree on the next one.
That is, request for
I've done that
solar
myself.
sign.
Yeah.
Road. Yeah, so that's what-
Yeah. Sure that people get coming out of business, they're trying to,
It's like the people coming out of Dairy Queen to the left up Fourth Street.
yeah, thinking it's a cut over to one
So I
seventeen.
know we have the dead end sign.
Because you got a bit of a road up on 117 and it, but there's, I think it kind of in the church, doesn't it, somewhere in that area, but
Used to have one time cut through and it wasn't constant cut through, so we took the cul-de-sac some
Okay.
years ago.
okay. Yeah, motion to stick up
Second
to
that.
the, yeah. Or to have the same issue on the other side at all.
I don't think so. I think what they're saying, it sounds like there's people coming out of Dairy Queen. They don't see the signs at the street sign, so they'll just do that left. So just put it just beyond that, just north of that.
Right.
That's, are there any other items of business?
I don't have anything.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, folks, for coming and spending some time